يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد، فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. أما بعد, Alhamdulillah. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that give us the blessing of today to be among the alive one and among the one that remembers him. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in his book in many places that that a lot of people that they are not thankful. Like Allah mentioned, Allah said, وَقَلِيلٌ مِّنْ عِبَادِيَ شَكُورٌ. Allah said, very few of my slaves are thankful. And being not thankful comes from a lot of things that, like maybe not actually acknowledging the blessing of Allah upon themselves, or maybe probably by not even thinking or knowing the blessing of Allah upon them. Allah mentioned that a lot of people do not know, and a lot of people are not aware of actually knowing their Allah. So we thank Allah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do not count us among these people. These a lot of people. Allah give us the chance to be among Muslims, to remember Him and to remind ourselves of His names and of His blessing upon us. Alhamdulillah. And the best blessing Allah has given us is the blessing of Islam. Alhamdulillah. Like Allah mentioned that Islam is a ni'mah that He has bestowed upon us. As He mentions throughout the Ma'idah, which some scholars mentioned that it was the last ayah to be revealed in the Quran. So what we're talking about today, inshallah, is the Shahada, which, subhanallah, Shahada is something that even me myself, to like, even despite that, my name is Tawhid, alhamdulillah, which is actually what we're talking about together, which we're talking about today, which is the Shahada. One of the most surprising thing for me is, like, despite that, try our best trying to learn from the beginning. This Shahada, this Tawheed, is something that a lot of Muslims are not aware about it. Despite that, is the first thing they know they will say to become a Muslim. That what is involved, what it contains, a lot of Muslims are not aware about it. And the scholars have mentioned that this leaving of this Tawheed off is the reason why the Muslim Ummah is weak, and is the only way, is a way that gave the victory to the first Muslim, like the Prophet and the companions. And this Kalimat Shahada is what all the prophets were being called upon to us before us till now. And they said that not thinking and not, inshallah, I will try and mention some of my references so that anyone that wants to go back to them can go back. Alhamdulillah. So now, so they mentioned that the knowledge of Tawheed, which actually is like the foundation of Islam, is what a lot of people are not aware about it. And this is something that they said the Prophet Islam, it was busy with Tawheed for 13 years in Medina. Like there's a narration that said the Prophet Islam was going to the market and it was said, "Qulu la ilaha illallah tuflihu." It says, "Say la ilaha illallah, you'll be successful." So just before I go into this, I'm going to try and ask ourselves to get involved with some questioning ourselves, like this Shahada. After we've said it, have we pondered upon it? Have we taught our family? Have we taught our children? Have we discussed it among ourselves? And are we living on it? Are we giving it its right? Are we the way we should do? So, a small question that a lot of scholars will begin in their book about. They're trying to explain that who is Allah? Who is Allah Himself? This is something that um, me and be a teacher, and I've deal with a lot of kids most of the time, and sometimes we get to talk about the religion. I've spoken to kids of about 10 years, and you realize that some of them don't even understand who Allah is. For example, some of them will think we worship Muhammad. They will say, "Oh," and I know one of the students that they find it even difficult to say Allah, and their parents are Muslims, and so a lot of people they're not even aware of who is Allah. So not to waste too much time, the the ayah and the surah that basically explain who is Allah is the first one, is the biggest verse in the Quran, as a common hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that he asked one of his companions and said, which verse in the Quran is the most greatest verse? And Mu'adh, the companion mentioned, is Allahu la ilaha illa al hayyul qayyum. That's the ayat al-Kursi, Quran 2 verse 255. So this is the ayah that we as a Muslim, we need to sit down to explain who Allah is to our children, to our friends, to talk about it, that Allah explain Himself. And this is enough. All of us has got access to English Quran now. And the other ayah that explain Allah is Qul huwallahu ahad as well. Like the Prophet ﷺ, some people, they came to him and said, we know you. Are you going to explain your Lord to us? So Allah revealed Qul huwallahu ahad, and the Prophet ﷺ explained what Qul huwallahu is. So Allah said Qul huwallahu ahad, and it was explained that Qul huwallahu ahad, they said, you are one. How come your Allah is one? Prophet said, Allah is laysa kamithlihi shay'un, that there is nothing like Allah. Allah said, Prophet said, Kullu ahadin yamut illahu, everyone would die except him. So then they said increase us on your Lord. Then Allah revealed Allahu Samad. Allahu Samad. Then Prophet said, As-Sayyid alladhi yusmadu ilayhi fil hawaij. Allah is the one that that you will keep on going into. You have to keep going towards Him all the time in sorting out your affairs. For example, like you wake up, you wake up, you want to get up, you need Allah to help you wake up. How many people try to wake up, sleep, and by the permission of Allah, they couldn't wake up because Allah take their soul. So Allah, and for example, they said Allah Samad means, for example, when harm happened to us, like in the tafsir, they said Allah, this ayah was mentioned that إِذَا مَسَّكُمُ الدُّرُّ فَإِلَيْهِ تَجْأَرُونَ, that whenever harm touches you, it is unto Allah that you seek all the time. So like Allah mentioned that the kuffar, the Quraysh, when they are on the ship and the wind becomes very powerful, they think they're going to sink, they remember Allah. So this is Allah Samad. Allah is the one that in every affairs, we think we want something to happen to help us, to save us from our difficulties. So Allah is one that is the one that, even though people don't know Him sometimes, like is the one that basically we think like something should happen to just help me. So lam yalid wa lam yulad, lam yalid, they said just like Maryam gave birth, Allah doesn't give birth. Wa lam yulad, just like Isa alayhi salam was given birth to, then Allah was not given birth to. Wa lam yakun lahu kufuwan ahad, and Allah, and there is no comparison to Allah. That means Allah will not be in need to have any need from his slave. So this ayah, this surah and the ayah, basically of Ayatul Kursi, they explain Allah that Allah doesn't sleep. Allah is the one that created the heaven and the sky. Allah doesn't sleep. Allah doesn't get tired. All this affair is basically something that we should know. So if someone say La ilaha illallah, which is the Shahada, they should know they should actually understand that this is the Allah I'm testifying towards. So this is the Allah I am basically I'm affirming to believe in. So if because if a new Muslim like you work with teenagers, some of them they will see you say la ilaha illallah, and some of them they might be Hindu, they might be Christian, but they don't mean it. So saying la ilaha illallah is not enough for someone to be Muslim unless they have the understanding of what it contains. So that Allah, la ilaha, la ilaha does not mean there is no God but Allah. Because like some people translate la ilaha as this. Like in fact, I definitely know a masjid that it was written in front of the masjid like this, but this is not what the Quraysh understand by la ilaha. Mean that it doesn't mean there is no God but Allah, because before the Prophet Islam came, the Quraysh has got a lot of idols, which is their gods. So when you say La ilaha illallah, there is no God but Allah, you're saying all these idols are Allah? No, they're not Allah. It means there's nothing worthy of worship except for Allah. That is what La ilaha illallah means. So so this is what the Quraysh understand. And that's when the Prophet Islam said, say La ilaha illallah, they understand that well it's like this is very, very surprising. As he made all our lords into one God. So they were surprised, like this is something very surprising. They like, how can we have Lord of this, God of that, God of that. He's telling us to make it into one God. So they were a bit surprised. So as a Muslim, we need to know that this is La ilaha illallah, and this La ilaha illallah, the scholars they've explained that it is divided into two parts. The part of negation, which start with La, that says that there is nothing worthy of worship, like anything else besides Allah is falsehood. Illallah, except for Allah, and Allah is one that is worthy of worship. So this is something that has to be click into a person, that when someone is calling anything other than Allah, as a Muslim, you should know that this is falsehood, because Allah said, ذَلِكَ اللَّهُ وَالْحَقُّ, Allah is the truth, وَأَنَّ مَا يَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِهِ هُوَ الْبَاطِلُ, and anything that is called beside Allah is falsehood. It's very clear. When someone say La ilaha, they need to have this in their head. So if you don't say, oh, let them do their religion, like, oh, okay, but yeah, let them do them. At least if you can't tell them that what they're doing is falsehood, you need to actually know in your mind and rejecting in your mind. Like Prophet said, Mara minkum munkara, whoever sees something evil, Allah said, let him change with his hand. If he's not able, let him change with his tongue. If he's not able to change with his tongue, then let him change it with his heart. And that is the weakest of faith. So so at least the minimum of rejecting falsehood is to reject it in your mind. You see anyone calling beside Allah, they might be calling Jelani, they might be calling Muhammad Prophet Islam, they might be calling Jesus. You should know that this is falsehood, because Allah is the one that is befitting of calling upon. Allah is the one, and that's because Allah is the one that creates us. So in explaining to going towards Allah is that Allah is the one that made us, that made every single thing. Allah Allah is the one that created everything. Allah takes ownership of creation, and nothing else take ownership of creation. So this is Allah. Allah is the Khaliq. Allah is Ar-Razak. Allah is the one that gives provision to every single thing. Allah is one that create that give provision, that give life to everything. Wal hayy, and Allah la yamut. Allah basically is one that gives life to everything, and is the only one that doesn't die. So this is something that we need to basically insert into ourselves as a Muslim, that the Shahada, the Allah I'm worshipping, the Allah I am saying I'm going to be worshipped, is the only truth. And anything beside it is true. Anything beside Allah is false. You understand? And a very, very beautiful ayah Allah is mentioned, at least that Allah used to question people. Allah mentioned question like Allah says, "Am khuluqu min ghayri shay'in?" Were they created from nothing? Am humul khaliqun, or were they the creators? If anyone said they don't, if anyone is basically saying they don't believe in Allah, this is a question we should ask them: were you created by nothing, or are you the creators? They have to probably say, "Oh, I'm created by something." And going deep with things like, if someone look deep into themselves, like Allah said, "Wa fi anfusikum," أَفَلَا تُبْصِرُونَ. Look into yourself. Look at the miracle of your veins, your blood, your system, your digestive system, your nerve system. Look at how they work. You think basically this is just made by nothing. You should know that there's Al Hakim, the one that is most wise, the one Al Alim, the Al Alim, the one that has got knowledge that made this. Like Allah mentioned in the Quran, Allah said, like people, human beings think the creation of themselves is bigger than the creation of heaven, which is not true. If you look at the sky, the heaven, like how do we know Allah? We know Allah by His creation and His signs and His creations are from the sun, from the sky, from the moon, yeah, from the wind, from the plants, and all these things. If anyone think about them out the way we grow, the way we become old, the way when someone passed away and no one can wake them up, that anyone that basically have a good mind should know that there is Allah. Allah do exist. That Allah do exist, and it's upon them and anyone that basically do not accept all this, they're just basically being arrogant for no reason because they know that they didn't create themselves and they were not created by nothing, and it's not big bang or something explosion that just make the world. You understand? And there was no one there except for Allah when everything began. So this is something that when we say the Shahada, we should basically um have in our mind. So and so going deeper, saying La ilallah has got a lot of benefit that we should be aware of. So for example, it's not enough to say La ilallah like I mentioned earlier on. Like the hypocrite at the time of Islam, they say La ilaha illallah, and despite that, it's not going to benefit them because they end up being even below the atheists. Because Allah said, إِنَّ الْمُنَافِقُونَ فِي دَارِكِ الْأَسْفَلِ مِنَ النَّارِ. That they will be in the lowest depth of hellfire. That's why saying the La ilaha illallah, all these things we're talking about, they're not doing it. They actually, it doesn't touch their heart. They don't let it sink into their heart. They just say it with their mouth. You understand? So the Prophet Islam is trying to Allah is telling us that when we say La ilaha illallah, we need to know what we're talking about, and we have to be hardened. We have to basically acting towards it. So we probably gonna. I've already mentioned that La ilaha illallah means to affirm and to negate, so that we affirm and we negate. We should know that. We should know that head. And what I'm just gonna move on into is that this saying this La ilaha illallah has come up with a lot of benefit. There's been a lot of benefit of saying La ilaha illallah if someone actually said it sincerely. Like it comes in hadith of Utban bin Malik. The Prophet ﷺ said, Inna Allah harama ala nar man qala la ilaha illallah yabtaghi bi dhalika wajha. That Allah has made hellfire haram, impermissible for a person that says La ilallah, and that person while he was saying it is seeking the face of Allah, is saying it and is seeking the face of Allah, is letting it sink in his heart. Like definitely I'm so sure there is no one worthy of worship except for Allah, the Al-Khaliq, Al-Razak, the one that create and the one that give provision to everything, Al-Hayy, the one that give life to everything. So if someone is saying this, the Prophet said they will not enter fire. Like as come in another hadith, yeah. Man qala la ilaha illallah bi ikhlas dakhala jannah. Whoever says la ilaha and they're sincere, they will enter paradise. So that means like they say it, they mean it, they understand it, and they believe it on their heart. So la ilaha has got many benefits. Like it's common in another hadith as well that the Prophet also said, whoever come whoever meets Allah with mistakes, with sins that fill up the whole earth, but la yushriku bi shay'an, and they did not take with Allah, along with Allah, any partners, like it will be mithli maghfirah. Allah will forgive them all their sins. So la ilallah basically wipe off all the sins. All the sins. If someone believe in this, it's enough for them to go to Jannah. It doesn't mean that when the sins like that will be the ticket for people to be in Jannah. Like it's possible that that was, like as it's coming, and I know that some it is true. Some Muslim will end up in fire if maybe probably like that's why saying like Allah in a minute, and their sins maybe they forgot to do istighfar or something happened to them. Some Muslim would do go to hellfire, and but it is because of this la ilaha illallah that they will be taken out of fire. So la ilaha is so whoever hasn't said la ilaha and basically and doesn't believe in it and doesn't take it, like unless they probably haven't heard about it or they haven't been invited to it, then Allah is the one that is going to have to judge them. But someone that actually have been invited to this and they rejected it, they are the kind of people that will be in hellfire forever. May Allah save us from hellfire. So these are the benefits of la ilaha that if we try to carry on, well, time is not gonna permit us. So the next thing I would like to move on to is that this la ilaha illallah I'm talking about, that they've got conditions, they've come up with some features, and these features that they come up with, that they come up with are numerous, and the evidence are there in the Quran and the Sunnah. And like I've been saying, the first condition of la ilallah is that we need to have knowledge about it. Like, and the evidence are many as well. Like Allah mentioned Surah Muhammad, fa'lam annahu la ilaha illallah. Make sure you know that there's no word of worship except for Allah. So the scholar have devised from this ayah that you need to know. You need to know that there's no one whether this is even in fact the first thing that is incumbent, that is compulsory on every slave to understand, that there is no one worthy of worship except for Allah. And another ayah back that up as well. Allah saying in another surah, Allah said, "Illa man shahida bil haqqi wa hum ya'lamun." Except for that one that is testifying with the truth and they know. And so that means like someone is testifying with the truth and they know what they're saying. Allah comes like Allah in the ayah. And a very famous ayah everyone knows, Shahidallahu annahu la ilaha illallah wal malaikatu wa ulul ilm qayyima bil qisti. Allah mentioned that. Allah said, Allah testified there is no one worthy worship except for him. And the malaika they testify. And the people that have got knowledge, they testify that Allah is the there's no one worthy of worship except for Allah. So these are the evidence that shows that when someone says la ilaha illallah, they need to know what they're saying. Now, even the scholars, there's a lot of few poems about these conditions, that when someone says la ilaha illallah, after having knowledge, then they need to have sincerity. And the sincerity we kind of mentioned a little bit, that sincerity means that everything that someone is doing after saying la ilaha illallah has to be towards Allah. Like it has to be towards Allah. Like, and this la ilaha is so powerful. It's so powerful that if someone can say it being sincere, like I mentioned in the ayah, and the ayah that they seek the face of Allah, that is the only way they're gonna enter. Someone can enter Jannah. And it's very important. Like the Prophet ﷺ was just with this la ilaha for 13 years. It's not that you're just saying la ilaha. The face of la ilaha it's like it's quite far that we won't have time to mention it. Like that's why a lot of scholars have put together the affairs that happened these 13 years. There was no salah, there was no zakat, there was no hajj, and Prophet Islam was still, people were Muslim. That was because the Prophet Islam was focused on removing anything that from relying on something than Allah, from seeking help, from fear, that basically people were dependent on other than Allah at this time. So that people, so when when it was time to pray Salah, then it becomes easy. Anything that people can attach to, for example, the fear of Tawhid, of La ilaha is so deep. People have amulet that they put on their neck, on their hand, believing that it will protect them. So all these things were a face of Tawhid that probably, inshallah, we might go into it later on, that the Prophet was focusing for his first 13 years. So just like like I mentioned, that all the Prophet, what they came with was la ilaha illallah. Like Allah says in Surah Anbiya, وَمَا أَرْسَلْنَا مِن قَبْلِكَ مِن رَسُولٍ إِلَّا نُوحِي إِلَيْهِ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Allah says, we did not send anyone before you, Prophet, except that we inspire him that there's no one worthy of worship of Allah. So, like Allah mentioned in another ayah, in Surah An-Nahl, Allah said, وَلَقَدْ بَعَثْنَا فِي كُلِّ أُمَّةٍ رَسُولًا أَنْ يَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ فَاجْتَنِبُوا الطَّاغُوتَ. Allah said, Allah said, we we brought up in every ummah, in every set of people, a prophet that, like, from all the people before us, Allah had brought up a prophet to worship only him, and to stay away from at-taghut. At-taghut, it's anything that is being worshipped or called beside Allah. So Allah has so this is how important la ilaha illallah is. We need to know that this is something that all the prophet they call into before before the prophet come. That Jesus alayhi salam, um, um, even he mentioned in the Abdullah, he said, I am a slave of Allah. So if someone come and just say or Jesus, if someone is calling on Jesus, someone is calling on Buddha, you should know that, these people is on battle, on falsehood. So I've mentioned that we have need to have knowledge, we need to have a class, like Allah said, like Allah mentioned. Allah said, وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ. In Surah Al-Bayyinah, Allah said, they were not commanded, they were not commanded except that they should worship Allah, being sincere to Him in the religion. So sincerity is making sure that everything we do, we seek Allah, and this come on the ayah that Allah mentioned. Like, we should know that, like I mentioned last time, that the reason that we are created is to worship Allah. وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. Like, the reason why Allah created people is not to keep working, not to make money, and forget about their children, and not teach them religion. Like, if someone is actually sincere, you should know that, like, if someone basically is sincere with Allah, they should know that people they should be harris, they should be working towards making that themselves, their family, they upon this tawhid. Because if your children don't understand this thing, like, if a parent pass away, then like the children will not be of benefit to the parent, because they don't understand that we need to call Allah, we need to pray for our parent. Like, our parent might be facing some test in the graveyard. That's because someone might is not sincere enough, or they don't have this knowledge, all this point I'm mentioning. And we should know that we as parents, uh, we are guardians, like, and we've asked about how we direct our guidance. Like, kulukum ra'in wa kulukum mas'ul an ra'ati, that we are all guardians, and every guardian will be asking about people below them. So it's upon us to make sure that we 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 are sincere. If you're really sincere, and we know that this la ilaha illallah is something very important. It's something that we should keep building ourselves and increasing to it. Like, yes, the la ilaha comes along with the iman of having the iman of aminu billahi wa rasuli wa malaikati wa kutubi wa rusuli. All these things is something that link together. Like, something that we should be busy ourselves with, by teaching our family about this, how to believe in Allah, this how to believe in angels. This is what Allah tells us about angels. This how to believe in angels. Like like you have like you have a lot of kids out there. Like, for example, if they pick up on TV that, oh, there are aliens somewhere, and yeah, or there is this thing, like, the question is like, aliens, science say aliens, but Prophet said, if there's anything that will take us closer to paradise, he has told us. Anything that will take us away from hellfire, he has told us. So if there's anything like something something is going to benefit us, Prophet would have told us. So you know that after Allah created humans, Allah created angels, Allah created jinn, Allah created animals, and there's nothing like that. If you not say, oh, probably it's possible someone can go into a lab and make up something else like this, then it's something that it should be clear on the Muslims that, like, if you understand religion with ilm, yeah, with basira, you don't need to you don't need to like believe in something that hasn't got evidence like this. So believe in Allah, believe in all these angel, all this, and even believe in the Quran, believe in the Prophet. Like, we need to basically go into the stories of the Prophet Islam, all the Prophet before the Prophet Islam, how they live their life and worshiping this same God that they worship. This and how do we believe in the Quran? How do what's the miracle of the Quran? What's the Quran teaching us? How are we giving our time to it? This comes under a class. So if someone is sincere, they will basically be focusing towards that part, just to make sure that in everything they do, that they see everything they do, they see the reader of Allah basically. So I will try and move quick a little bit. So the third condition of the Shahada is acidic, that we need to be truthful, and we need to ask ourselves, are we truthful enough? And the opposite of truthful is actually not truthful, which is basically would be lying. Lying, like Allah mentioned. Allah said the believers. Allah said, that after that there were people after having that the believers, people that believe in Allah and His Messenger, and they do not doubt. So you have to make sure that this shahada you said, you're truthful, and I don't doubt it. Maybe there's Allah. You can't say that. You have to be firm in your mind that definitely there's Allah. Definitely there's Jannah. Definitely there's Nar. Definitely there's Azab al-Qabr. Definitely there's punishment of the grave. Definitely we're gonna be raised up. All these things has to be clear. This come under the shahada. I'll try and finish this condition. I've mentioned al-ilm. I've mentioned al-yaqin, be certain. I've mentioned sincerity. Then the next thing is, like, you have to be certain. You have to be certain. Then after being certain, then the next thing is al-mahabba, is to have love for this shahada. So, like, when they say love, it's something that we need to put in ourselves from the beginning, that Allah loves us. Allah has given us a lot of blessing. Allah is one that gave us mouth, give us eyes. Allah has given us provision, and Allah loves us, and Allah wants good for us, and we need to love Allah in return. And if you love Allah, then it's easier for us to follow what Allah tell us to do. Like Allah mentioned in Surah Al-Baqarah that some people they love other than Allah in the way they should have loved Allah. So this is something that comes under the shahada as well, that when we see the shahada, we need to love it. We need to love that Allah has made us Muslim. We need to love that it makes sense that the one that made us, the one that gave us provision, is one to be loved. The one that gave us brain, the one that basically does not make us animal, is worthy of being loved. And when he tells us to do something, then we should be able to do it easily. Now, so after having love, then the next one is inqiyad. Inqiyad is to have acceptance for all the rulings that Allah is telling us, because Allah is the Al-Hakim. Allah is the one that is all wise, and when He tells us something, it's for our own good. Whoever, like Allah mentioned, whoever does good, he does good for himself. Like Allah carry on in that ayah, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ لِيَعْبُدُونِ, I did not create man and jinn except that they worship me. مَا أُرِيدُ مِنْهُم مِنْ رِزْقٍ, I did not want anything. I did not want provision from them. وَمَا أُرِيدُ أَنْ يُطْعِمُونِ, I do not want them to feed me. إِنَّ اللَّهَ هُوَ الرَّزَّاقُ ذُو الْقُوَّةِ وَالْمَتِينُ. Allah is the all powerful and the strong one. So Allah is saying that all the creation of human being is not for us to We feed Allah. It's for our own good. It's a test that are we going to like appreciate the blessing of Allah upon us and be thankful to Him. So this deserve that we accept the rulings of Allah upon us. That's the inqiyad. And I think the last one I'm going to mention is al-kufr bi-taghut, that anything that is not that is worship beside Allah has to be regarded as falsehood. It's also one of the condition of la ilaha, like I mentioned as well. So these are what la ilaha contain, that we need to have al-ilm, knowledge about Allah. We need to basically have yaqeen, certainty. We need to basically make sure that we're not doubting. We also have to have ikhlas, make sure that we're sincere, is from the deep part of our mind. Just not the fact that we hear some news or we've read some things before. We need to basically know that the message of Allah in the Quran is the truth, and not even a letter in it is falsehood. So we have to believe in Allah like this. We have to love Allah more than anything. Like Rasulullah said, you understand? Whoever love Allah and His Messenger more than anything, we see the sweetness of Iman. So if Allah and His Messenger are the most loving to us, then it's easier for us to follow the instruction on that inqiyad, to have al-qabul, acceptance, so to accept any rulings of Allah. And the last thing is that we need to say al-kufr bit-taghut. We need to, anything that is worshipped beside Allah has to be denounced as falsehood. Anything like we all know as Muslim, Allah made it clear that this deen of Islam, you have to have in your mind that وَمَنْ يَبْتَغِ غَيْرَ الْإِسْلَامِ دِينًا فَلَنْ يُقْبَلَ مِنْهُ. Whoever comes to anything other than Islam on the day of judgment, Allah will not accept from him. On the day of judgment, it will be from the khasirin, from the losers. As a Muslim, you have to have this in your mind. If you don't have that, then like your shahada is not deep. May Allah never make us among the munafiq. You know that in the Allah al-Islam, the religion of Allah is Islam. Islam is the religion of all the prophets, and even the prophet and the religion of the man of Prophet Islam. So if a Muslim need to put this in their mind, then everything will be easy. That you know that anyone that comes with anything other than Islam in the judgment, Allah will not accept it from them. And this should come under Shahada as well, that you can see like this basically put everything together, that we cannot be in between with a Shahada. It has to be affirmed in our mind. We have to have knowledge about it, and we have to keep working towards it to increase our knowledge about this. Like the Shahada, when I say Allah has got many sifat, many attributes, many names, many actions. So this is something that basically is not enough for us to cover it on a day like today. But this is something that as Muslim we need to keep working towards knowing Allah more, because Allah mentioned that inna ma yakhsha Allah al-ulama, the people that fear Allah more are the scholars, are the people that have knowledge. So the more knowledge we have, the more we fear Allah. So this is part of us as Muslims, that we need have to keep improving in understanding Allah more. There's more to learn. There's names of Allah more. Like there's the popular 99 names are this, but scholars have come up that the names are, even the hadith explain it, that the names of Allah is not restricted to 99. That the names of Allah is more than 99, because the hadith says some of the names you teach some of your slaves, and even like scholars have they've gone through the Quran, and some of the names that the 99 names not in the Quran as well. So I'm saying that there is more to learn for us, and this Shahada is the most important thing. It's the most important thing that if we keep working on it as Muslim to get to know Allah, Bismillah, that we will get better. Because like to just round up is that I mentioned that Allah did not create us to worship Him. There are many, and if we Muslim we know the Shahada, and Allah creates us to worship Him, and the different ways that we worship Allah, we need to be aware about them. If we can know that, if we know how to worship Allah, and there are different ways that, for example, like the Prophet said, um, something that people will not even take note of is like whoever swear by other than Allah has committed shirk. For example, whoever basically swear by their mom, swear by metal, swear by stone, the Prophet said they have put Allah and that thing they're swearing about, they have basically make them equal. So these are affairs that we don't know that we should say. Like that's what I'm saying. It's very, very important that even going to our work, looking after our children, doing good to our parents, preventing evil from even the non-Muslim, like not doing bad to them, do it for the sake of Allah. Open that, Allah will reward you for all these things you do. Yeah, all this that I mentioned, like all the way to even sleeping and eating. Sleep so that you can have energy to do ibadah. All these things will come under this worship. Go to work so that you can do charity. This work will be charity will come under worship as well. So inshallah, I'll stop here inshallah because the time is quite short and it's a bit rush today. So we'll carry on next time inshallah. If Allah permits. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك الحمد لله جزاكم الله خيرا